rich not only in money, but also with your imagination. Be rich in your love, and for little have appreciation. Be rich in your thinking, because it will produce wealth. Be rich about your life, and always love self. Be rich when thinking about your future to come. Set your standards high, want plenty, not some. Be rich, be rich, be rich with your help for others in need. Be grateful for your mother producing you the seed. Be grateful for God, from which all life flows indeed. So be rich not only with millions, because it takes more to bring joy on the inside. Just ask new R&B singer Houston, why did he try to commit suicide? Be rich.
Have you ever heard a doctor say there's nothing else that we can do? You've only got a few days.
Your body's racked with pain, you never feel the same. You're always sad and you've lost all the strength that you had. So get mad, cause the devil's tried to take you out, but healing's real without a doubt.
I became very aware that the physical cues that tell you someone's a Hispanic or maybe an Italian or an Arab or an, don't apply as soon as you leave the mainland. All right, you might see a blue-eyed, blonde-haired something or other. You know, they just, it gets kind of a little different when you leave the continental
Well,
United
actually,
States.
the city of Chicago bestowed that courtesy upon me, letting me know that I was African American, and I got my minority status.
Is there?
Yeah, so I was very proud to know that finally I had arrived at being African American.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, now you a vendor then with the city now?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Well,
Yes, I
Arnold,
am.
as you may or may not know, you've probably made a whole workforce mad. You ever thought about that?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay, well, think about the taxi drivers. Because normally we get all the information from taxi drivers.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Boy, I tell
That's
you.
true.
And that's not to be exaggerated because they get treated and incentivized and free meals and stuff to direct business places. But what you've done is, I think you've got 15 different categories of activities of interest. And what I'm excited about you, besides being an African American, and we certainly want to thank Bob Dale of R.J. Dale Advertising for linking us up, is that I am proud that we are such a tourism community. I don't think Chicagoans think of themselves as a tourism community and how much that economy.
Oh, wow.
You had a figure, I think, for how many
last
visitors.
year, yeah, the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau said that Chicago had at least 44 million tourists visiting Chicago.
Do you realize that's more than the populations of some countries?
Oh, absolutely. Chicago is a fascinating city to explore. There's so many things to see and do around Chicago. And as a matter of fact, when I was a little younger and dating, Friday nights
Look
was
younger in
always.
dating. See, I was specifically
I was a little younger in dating. On Friday nights and Saturdays, everybody wanted to know, what's going on at the movies or what's going on downtown. And you would always invariably go to that person who knew everything that was going on.
There was always one person.
It was
Cab driver.
always
the
one person.
social director.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
as we call it, the hookup.
Right, because most times you didn't get the Sun Times or the Tribune, or you didn't know what was going on because you spent 40 plus hours working.
Yeah.
And so, I just when I built this site, it was those people in mind that I had those people in mind actually that didn't have an opportunity to read the newspapers, didn't have an opportunity to really socialize.
Yes, sir.
In terms of where to go and what to do. So we wanted to build something that was 24/7. You didn't have to buy a newspaper, but you can just go online and you can
Service
just
Center, and we have a case management team, and we have a gentleman there that has a master's degree in social work, and he's a licensed master's degree in social work that's leading up that operation.
Now, what are some of the reasons that we find men are homeless? I've worked with a shelter on the west side, and I'm amazed at the diversity of educational backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. And I think our audience would like to know.
Well, there's several reasons why people are become homeless. Now, let me say the definition of homeless is not those who don't have. It's also those who are on a border or about to become homeless. There are thousands of our neighbors in the city of Chicago, in Cook County right now, who are living from paycheck to paycheck. If you're living from paycheck to paycheck, then you are prone to become homeless. Because if you're going from paycheck to paycheck, then what's going to happen is, if that paycheck runs out, then you're not going to have the money to pay your rent, you're not going to have the money to pay your mortgage, you're not going to have the money to pay your light bill, gas bill, those type of things, and that's going to end up sending you in some direction to try to find some relief from that. Now, people think that the homeless are downtrodden, down and out. Morgan, I have had school teachers, I have had men and women with doctorate degrees, with master's degrees, come through Matthew House because people get homeless for several different reasons. It's not all because they became overindulged themselves into alcohol or drugs, and that took away from their money. No, we have people who have mental illness, manic depressive. Matter of fact, the greatest cause for the very high educated person that becomes homeless is depression. And that depression could be brought on because they had this great stature, educational stature, and they may have been working in these great projects, but when it came, big job, and then what happened, they downsized.
Yeah.
Now they downsize and they lose their jobs. Now because they have this master's degree and because they have this PhD or doctorate that goes along with that title, no one wants to hire them because they say, well, no, they tell them you're overqualified. Now here's a very qualified person who's overqualified to work for you or work for me because I don't really need your skills, so I'm holding that against you. That's how your education qualification works against you. So you can't get a job. So you have to have money to pay your bills like everybody else. You don't have a job, you can't pay your bills, you're homeless. Out you go.
Do you have any estimates on how many homeless people there are in the greater Chicago area?
Well,
let's say city limits, so maybe that's better. Heard together.
If you listen to our mayor, he says it's only a few thousand. We've serviced nearly 5,000.
As you mentioned, identify exactly who and what is a minority. Number two, you have to have the monitoring in place to ensure that there is some level of integrity and being maintained in the program.
Okay. And Perry Gibson, you dealing from two perspectives, as a realtor and as a pastor, seeing the moral issue and the real issue.
Yes. I'm always concerned that life has to be approached from a whole perspective. And generally, as we get into issues, we usually focus so much on issues that seem like they are paramount and everything else doesn't relate. But the achievement of results start with conception, then incubation, finally cultivation, and then a result. When certain goals, and first thing to answer Ted's question here, why should we pay more and get less? The answer to that is we should not pay more and get less. We should pay what's proper and we should get what's proper. And that has to become the primary goal. Now, I also read the paper recently where Mayor Daley admitted a certain amount of error and total responsibility for the condition of trucking and those things in the city, and I appreciate his commitment that he intends to do something about it. And we're standing now to see what is he going to be able to do about it, because ultimately we have to get the services that we need and we have to pay what's right. So as it relates to individuals doing jobs for the city, whether they're black or white, they have to be able to perform. Who is going to take these people who don't know how to perform, who get contracts, whose names are on as contractors, who don't even know the meaning of being a contractor, and so they're walking in the shadow of others? Who is going to take the responsibility? Because this has to start we can't wait till the child is grown, making big mistakes to teach them. So when are we going to go into the classrooms and start teaching our children the things that they need to know to be equipped to live in this society and function in professional ways? And these are things, and it's telling, teaching, and training. So we need to be, and we call that education. But education has gotten largely away from telling, teaching, and really training people so that when they go out into the world, just like the soldier on the battlefield, he's ready to perform.
Now, if we get back to the let's say the issue of the contracting and such, most of the people that I know who are applying for contracts, whether it be with larger companies or with government, are quite capable of performing according to the contract. And at least all the business owners that I know would certainly make that claim.
Well, Mark, I wanted to ask you: is it like the old Daley days? What kind of mayor would the old Daley say? What would I be if I didn't help my family and my friends? Is that pretty much what we talk about?
Part of what you're probably saying is that, at least from the black community standpoint, for the most part, the small portion that the black truckers were doing, there was no problem with them. Okay. The trucks that you found sitting up not doing anything were the ones with the fraudulent companies. Okay. So in this instance, the black contractors, the black truckers, fulfilled their obligation. But the point is, why weren't there more? Now, do you all think maybe the whole piece on Why in a city that is
Men.
like 40%?
We talk about black men on the move. Certainly, the number one talked about black men on the move is none other than Mr. Obama. Just a few minutes ago, we found out that he was endorsed by the Chicago Sun-Times. Yes, I am. I'm doing my best. All right, the numbers on the screen. If you have any questions about those that you see, the things that you hear, we hope we make you mad, glad, or sad. I'm Morgan Carter, and let's go first of all to our co-host today. We gave him a field elevation. Give us your name, rank, and serial number.
Hi, I'm Michael Ross, co-host, and I'm a photojournalist for you, and I've been doing a lot of the editing for the paper and the TV and the radio show.
So we get to see see you in person now that we've also enjoyed your work. I'm going to skip over our political candidate for just a minute. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Reverend Donald Bester. I'm the CEO of Stop, Look, Listen, Interpret Service for the Deaf and Hearing Impaired.
Very good. And we've been delighted over the last couple of years to have Reverend Dr. Bester to help us out so that we miss no part of the population in talking about news, views, and trends. Now, they said we saved the best for last. Perhaps we have. I like his wife anyway. But Derek, how are you today? And tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're running for.
I'm doing fine, Morgan. My name is Derek Stinson, Derek David Stinson, the uniquely qualified candidate for commissioner for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Right. And the reason why I'm so uniquely qualified, and that means the only one, is because I have 23 years in wastewater processing, which is the primary function of the district. I have 21 years of leadership in environmental protection, water purification, and wastewater processing, and protecting those assets. And also because I've been working for the district for the past 18 years, so I have 18 years of full-time experience, and I'm a supervisor and wastewater plant operator now at the Calumet plant, located on 130th Street.
That's on the south side.
It's on the south side.
So you're protecting the south side water.
Well, see, that's another reason why I'm so uniquely qualified. We have 7 plants across Cook County that provides this wastewater processing services for the...
I never knew that till you shared this with me.
Right, we have 7 plants, and I've worked at or supervised 6 of the 7.
All right, so you've been hands-on.
Hands-on for 18 years.
How did you get into water protection and all that in the military? You were in the Air Force, right?
Yes, I'm a retired senior master sergeant from the United States Air Force, Illinois Air National Guard. That's what my job. So your tax dollars sent me to pay for my room and board and basic training.
Yes, sir.
And you pay for my room and board in technical school. And then you pay for me to travel all over the country and all over the world.
So we can get our investment back. That's one way to say it.
Right. You pay for me. You pay for all my training and all my preparedness.
Yes, sir.
All over the world. I'm a world traveler and a professional. And I'm certified by the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency as a supervisor and wastewater plant operator in this state. And I can work in about a dozen more other states.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Your literature has been very colorful, and we want to mention that you're not at all shy
Dr. Cook,
about you have a lot of resources and training to bear, but the bottom line is that when we're sitting there in a sense of love and sharing, us men, or we men, you came up with a vision, or you were given a vision. You shared it with us. We've joined it eagerly. So let's get to it. What is the vision?
Well, the vision basically is that men's groups from throughout Chicago have come together, and it's something that the Lord had put on my heart to do, because I had been doing work in the Chicago public school system and found out that we have approximately 400,000 children in the Chicago public schools. And when we met with the chief of staff of CPS, Brian Samuels, he mentioned the fact that out of those 400,000...
You mean DCFS?
No, CPS, Chicago Public Schools.
Okay,
Brian
Samuels.
Ernie Duncan's chief of staff.
Okay.
Okay. He told us that out of the 400,000 students, 85% of them are considered under the poverty line.
That's a family of over 300,000.
Yeah, that's
about 340,000. Right?
360, 40,000 approximately. So, but prior to that, I had been given the vision or the assignment of sorts, as you said, that we as men of Chicago need to step up. Step up and take our rightful place of leadership, authority, and responsibility. And because those children are in such a vicarious place, in the wintertime, the truancy rate and the absenteeism rate goes down an additional 30%.
Now, we've discussed this for a couple of weeks now, and only a half hour ago did I really see the implications of the truancy rate because of the cold.
Correct.
All right, and it's funny how you learn things right on the set.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So 30% of the 350,000 students, we're looking at about 100,000 children don't go to school because they don't have proper clothing and shoes. Mm-hmm. So we've taken up the mantle, and I say we, and that's you, Morgan Carter, and you, Keith Glover, to provide 100,000 coats and 100,000 pairs of shoes for the children for the City of Chicago public school system. So that's been our charge. And we just invite everybody and anybody who wants to be a part to assist us.
And we're under the umbrella of a very well-renowned nonprofit organ, which is the Institution for Positive Living.
Correct. Maurice covers.
Oh, what a wonderful lady. She's got the reading program.
Correct.
And we just got a call this morning to participate in the Black McDonald's Operators Association's writing program.
Okay,
that'll be in, I guess, the second week in October. So I'm really excited about that too.
Right.
There's so many reasons that children don't go to school, and again, with Keith's help especially, and with your help, we tried to have a parade of professionals to meet our Englewood juniors and seniors who were part of a Teamwork Englewood work experience. 4 hours a day, paid $7 an hour, 5 days a week. And what we found is that some of the children, many of them, came early and stayed late. Even they were only paid for 4 hours. And it became very evident to me that one of the reasons that they came early and stayed late was they were able to get at least some amount of a safe haven, a pleasant place. They weren't stacked on top of each other. There wasn't the hostility, the violence, the toxicity in the air, the music playing, whatever, and so forth. And it really gave me up close and personal. I wanted again to thank Keith, because I just didn't see that it's amazing that these kids get to school even in the summertime with the poverty, with disease, with the violence, with some of them pregnant, HIV. I mean, we go on and on and on and on, Why don't you jump in here? I know you're pretty...
Well, let me before he jumps in, I just want to thank and acknowledge you and your wife for opening up your home for this classroom. You all did a great service for these children for no money. I'm going to just let you know. They were not paid to do this, but they opened up their hearts and their mind, their hearts and their house, so that these children had a place to come. And it was such a safe haven for them. Like you said, they would come early and stay late. And they shared with us. I had an opportunity to be with them a couple of times. And it was such a wonderful experience. And then with Keith and with his kineticism and how he just...
He's kind of in between. We're old heads and...
Speak for yourself. I'm a more mature head. But Keith, he was such a galvanizing force with these young people. So I thank you too, Keith, for your degree of sensitivity.
Well, I thank both of you gentlemen for being a godfather to me. I don't even know what title to give you, Benton. Just thank you.
With us in 2006, God has brought us to this point, to this place. Hi, Miss Larry, how are you? Brought us to this place, to this point, and I am just elated that I have my health and strength. That's right. And we're just looking forward to greater things in 2007. Yes, I am a candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago, and I've been going a long time today. I started out at 6 a.m. on Les Brown's radio show, and then I did Fox News in the morning at 8. So it's been somewhat of a long day, but I wanted to make sure that I came here to celebrate for a short period of time with you all. I'm running for mayor of the city of Chicago because I have a concern for the city. I have a concern for our children and our children's children. I have a vision for the city of Chicago, a vision for a city that works for all of us, not just some of us. It is so important that we have a city that works for our children and with an educational system that works for all of our children. I issued a position paper on last week, and it talked about an educational apartheid in the city of Chicago. This administration has touted education as its centerpiece. But I say that we need to make sure that we have quality schools throughout the city of Chicago. I'm looking at a master facilities plan where we assess the quality of each school so that we don't have beautiful state-of-the-art schools in some parts of town. And in other parts of town, the schools are falling down. We don't have up-to-date technological equipment in some parts of town. And then in others, the children don't have computers. And if they have them, they can't even plug them in because the schools are not properly wired. Educational apartheid means that some of our children, so apartheid doesn't always just have to do with racial groups being separated. It can be about economic groups being separated. Some of our children are not being taught properly. The core curriculum in the schools, or regular schools, are of a low grade. You have to get into a magnet school, for the most part, to get a good education. That should not be the case. That means that we're talking about incarceration over education. And it should be just the opposite. Education over incarceration. If our children can't read.
I asked you a few minutes ago, and I'll do it again, what was the biggest surprise? After the confetti had all been swept up and your name flag is on the desk, and you really kind of peel that onion and see what's there, what was the biggest adjustment or surprise that you had?
Well, going in, I knew that we'd have to hit the ground running. When I said that we weren't going to raise taxes, and the board members were not going to raise any taxes. We're still seeing that right now. We're not able to generate enough votes right now to raise taxes to what I think is reasonable.
Sure.
So trying to put together a budget where it was going to be a $500 million reduction, and getting the commissioners to look at our budget in a serious manner and not make it political.
We ought to have that reason. And lastly,
Renald Taylor, educational consultant, hosting and producer, Talking Success. We're going into our 13th year here at Access Studios. I've done a lot of work in Chicago public schools. I've been on a mission to better children since 1969, basically.
You have quite a history. We were talking earlier about the second chance, so to speak, that Keith had in being incarcerated for many years and having a drug issue and also having been molested. You have a true triumph. You've got a testimony. I wonder if you'd share that with our audience.
Were you talking about him or
I'm
me?
talking about you.
Okay, I thought you were talking about somebody else. No, I got started. Matter of fact, just this past week, Boise Edwards, myself, Howard Lathan, and Dr. Von Tatum, and the list goes on. We did a thing from Major Adams.
Yeah, I heard
Major
about
Adams
that.
Community
I wish I'd
Center.
been invited. I'd have loved to come.
Well,
anyway.
you know, a lot of West Side people, and
I'm a West Sider,
I know
too.
I came out of that organization.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
The
I
Henry
didn't know
Horner,
that.
the Henry Horner
Oh.
Drum and Bugle Corps.
Isn't it amazing how we learn stuff when we get on there? Now, I've been knowing you, for at least a decade. But
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm a
learning
product of Major Adams. I just keep it real simple.
Yeah.
And a matter of fact, I had a father that was a true parent that was involved in what his children were doing. So my father got involved with Major Adams at the Henry Horner Boys Club in St. Andrew Hornets, and got involved as a parent, became the treasurer of Youth Service Committee of the West Side, handled all the money. We went places when I was 14, 15 years old. The average child didn't go. So that Drum and Bugle Corps kept a lot of people out of trouble. So a lot of people that showed up at this event are people that are productive citizens of society.
Because of what happened in the
Because of the impact of what Major Adams had on us and having us in that Drum and Bugle Corps.
Now, let me understand this. He is still living.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that until 2 weeks ago.
Major was born, I think, in Major's in 80, I think it was 80 some years old. and he was dancing on the dance floor.
Is that right?
Warner Saunders was there, and I don't want to take up a lot of time from the other guests, but the thing that made you embedded in our minds is that when we came up and selected our own careers, that it was incumbent upon us to give something back to the community.
Okay.
So when you look at all the men and the women that showed up, and a lot of them weren't there,
yeah,
they're productive citizens of society. They're very altruistic, even though they may have their own professions, and do what, not at the level what Majors has done, but they give something back to express their gratitude through service. That's what I oftentimes say. Some people say you can give money, some say you can give time. There are many ways.
Urban areas, the percentage and the frequency is even higher. And when you're talking about public housing, it's really at a tremendous level. And we talked earlier about how a tragedy, a trauma like rape, is very similar to a death syndrome. And I'm sure you're going to get into that in a little bit. Now, you got to take a deep breath now, all right? And look right in those cameras, and we all love you. This wonderful artwork that's beside us comes to us from our linkage with Lavette Haynes from the West Side Cultural Arts Center. I sometimes can't get that out in one breath. And you're a promising up-and-coming artist. Or you've come already, because you're right here.
Yes.
And you are whom, please? What's your name, rank, and serial number?
Okay. Shirley Hudson, and I'm a self-taught artist.
Is that right?
Yes,
All
definitely.
Right. Okay.
And I've been painting for the last 13 years.
And what inspired you to paint, if I may ask?
There was a need.
Okay. Boy, why climb the mountain? Because it's there, all right?
Exactly.
You know, we certainly have highlighted, or at least indicated, which each of you have. You're involved in a very specialized ministry, I'm going to call it, of helping people who have some sort of disability, as well as teaching folks to do something that really needs to, a void that needs to be filled. And you're doing something that's very noble in that there are thousands, perhaps hundreds and thousands of young women and men who have gone through this tragedy. We're working with the African American advocates for victims of clergy sexual abuse, and real plainly spoken, these are men who in their childhood, as early as 9 years old, were raped, sodomized, and otherwise abused by a Catholic priest in this city primarily. And one of them we can associate with up to 75 molestations, and that's really something deep. So we congratulate you on not only your success in recovery, but you've gone beyond and turned lemonade, was it lemons into lemonade? Lemonade.
And then, you know, Morgan, you gave some numbers there. And keep in mind, those numbers is only what we know. There is so much more going on out there that never gets told.
Exactly.
You never know. And things like this will help these people to understand that they can speak up, or that maybe there's some place to go, something to read, or something else that would help them deal with keeping silent.
And to further complicate it, Reverend Donald told us that many people who've been a victim of crime, male or female, cannot necessarily communicate it either to their parents, the police, or the authorities, which compounds a trauma, doesn't it?
It really compounded, and the thing it is, if anybody to talk to, or to get into something and write it out or wait to relive it, really never completely leaves them. They have to find an outlet.
Alrighty.
And hopefully we can gain some insight with those outlets.
All right. Now, you're a double duty lady. You also are the, how can I say, the strong manager. You're the velvet hammer, shall we say, for a group of performers. And as you mentioned, a unique double duty that Donald Bester not only does the signing and the training, but he signs while he sings. And I never really thought about that. That's kind of, you know, I can't juggle two balls at a time, let alone three.
Well, see, the thing of it is, Morgan, nobody recognizes at a level that's acceptable that those that are deaf needs to understand, needs to hear, and they can enjoy things like music or anything else we're doing, just like we're sitting here. So the group that I manage, they're called the Gospel Paraders. And they are a group of
they're elegant men
Christian, elegant. They're just,
Look at her,
they're
she
just
just glows when she
classical.
said that.
They are classical. And to have that kind of spirit, if you want to say it, and to have it interpreted so those that are deaf can truly, truly hear.
Yeah.
Just like we do.
I
I mean,
got
they
it.
don't hear like we do,
Yeah.
but the signing makes them hear.
Well,
And they can really appreciate that.
And there's a lot of things that we'd like to do with our programs. We want to have not just a wide audience, but be sensitive to all of the needs of our audience. And hopefully in another month or so, at least partial portions of all of our programs will be in Spanish. And so we don't leave no stone unturned and no potential viewer unserved. So I salute you and Donald for your effort, and it really is a ministry. And we're just honored to have it as part of our show. We got a lot of good compliment. I want to come to you for just a moment. I think we talked a little earlier in kind of a pre-interview. I've had some experience as a board member and a public relations person for not only a domestic violence agency, but one that dealt with the most supreme level, which is stalking. Stalking frequently is paramount to death. And some of my humblest moments were listening to a mother with a raggedy station wagon with children looking over her shoulder because her stalker had caused her to lose her job, that her family would not even open the door for fear of his violence, and just desperate to get some kind of recognition. Now, you are able now, you're coping. You were just 13 when this occurred, is that right?
Yes, I was 13 years old.
And what I found was fascinating is that you put on a search, perhaps a Christian odyssey, if I might call it that, to find your attacker. Now, most rapists are known to the victim. Is that the case with you?
Yes.
Alrighty. Was it a member of your family?
We were raised as cousins, but we didn't have the same DNA. In my book, I have a chapter say we're a family, but we wasn't the same DNA. He was like a step cousin.
Yeah,
he
and
was
we
like
all
a
have them. I got
step-
godbrothers and goddaughters.
Yeah, he was like a step cousin.
Yeah,
Yes,
mhm.
and I knew him. Yeah.
How much older was he than you?
He was 5 years older than I was.
Is that right?
Yes.
And at the time, did you try to tell mother, father, uncle, aunt, or did you hold it within? What was your response?
I held it within because my mother was going through an abusive divorce, and I didn't want to add another scar to her. So I dealt with it. I felt like I was strong enough to deal with it, and I often say, God had to choose the stronger vessel in my family if this had to happen. So I
Isn't
get
that
the
amazing?
honors that he chose me
Oh my
because he knew that I would be able to survive the storm.
Oh my goodness, that's marvelous.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to get to our little sister right here. I'm not trying to let her catch her breath, actually. And I'm just trying to make you relax. You know, this is your show and our forum. I'm Morgan Carter. This is World News. I started to say World News Tonight. I feel like I'm an anchor now, you know. But this is World News TV. And if you have questions or comments about this program, if you'd like to reach any of these wonderful and talented African-American women, call the number on the screen. And I'm going to read it anyway. It's, or say it, it's 708. Excuse me, that's not the one I want to use.
You want to use
773, help me now.
773-420. Give him the rest of it.
3645. Well, you're close. I'm going to save my energy.
Well, since you're going to save your energy,
Yeah.
I just want to tell you something here. As well as being on Morgan's program like this, Morgan also basically has founded and hosted something called ACES, which on every Monday morning at the International Pancake House.
Well, it's
on
actually
this
the Chatham Pancake House.
Chatham
But you're close,
Pancake
yeah.
House. Well, I call it the International because I used to go into the other one before that. But anyway, the Chatham Pancake House in the 700 East block of 87th Street every Monday morning. It's an
7:15, bright and
awesome
early.
place to be. I'm telling them 7 o'clock, so they'll be there at 7.
Ah, no. And they get to know, like, and trust one another. We encourage you,
but
if
seriously.
you have a business, want to start a business, got kicked out of a business, if you've been downsized, criticized, or ostracized, if you're looking for a job, and we also have a wonderful headhunter who finds positions that are up to 100,000. Cliff Bailey, I got to give him a little plug. We've got everything. As my cousins say down south, we got one somebody in everything. All right. And speaking of that, now we don't really have an opportunity to have artists on. It's been quite a while since someone, we call it dressing things like that. the stage. that's a good one to start. Did I start?
Well, my disclaimer, which I always use, just so people can understand my position, is that if women, and in particular black women, that's what we've been talking about, if they say collectively, as a whole, that I don't want to be called X, Y, and Z, and then respectfully as men, we should honor that.
Okay.
So that's my disclaimer, and there's no wavering on that. But on the other end, if a brother or a sister who's in this business of hip hop and they are a rapper, an artistic performer, they have a right to say what they want to say in music, in producing this music.
As far as the First Amendment?
Exactly. It's just as the First Amendment, but just as basic as an artist. An artist has a right to draw what he want to draw on a canvas, nudity, whatever. A rapper has a right.
Washington and panties. Okay.
Well, we've had all kind of artistic people who've done all types of things across this country, and they've been stamped renowned artists.
Well, let me put a pause on that for a minute. Now, you have indicated that the rap that you have, the hip hop, shall we say, genre of your play is positive hip hop. So what does that mean to this audience? What does that mean?
By being positive hip hop, that means there is an outlet where you can go to receive, some knowledge in the music. There's an outlet where you can go to gain some understanding as far as what goes on in your communities, and as well as some answers to some of the questions that you may have in relation to hip hop. But to kind of back what he's saying, I still believe in freedom of speech, and that's the route that I chose to go. But I in no way.
So let me make it real clear. Bottom line for our audience: is there not swearing or misogyny in your play?
No. No profanity at all in my play.
I use the analogy of Sinbad. Sinbad said his acid test was that his mother and his father could come to the performance. And in fact, a lot of times they'll hone in on him. They actually dolly in on him and close up.
And that was his personal choice. Such as then you have Richard Pryor, then you have other art, then you have a Steve Harvey who, a Bernie Mac, a Dale Givens, and a Monique. So everybody has their own personal choice of how they want to live and direct their careers. You chose to be a journalist. Somebody want to be a doctor. Another dude.
Actually, I'm an entertainer. Most people don't know that.
Entertainer. Somebody else want to be a stripper. You're going to knock a person for choosing the profession they chose? No.
Is there a line that you can go over in terms of we use this word, degrading black women, or the B word and the whole word? Is there a line? I understand that we control the house. What does that mean? Well, and let's bring it right on down to, as he puts his signs, Junior. And everybody knows who we mean by Junior.
Well, it means a couple of things. One is that
very proud that tonight our special guest is none other than the Honorable Arenda Troutman, who served for 17 years as the Alderman of the 20th Ward. And just before our conversation began, you saw a real spirited rally press conference done by none other than Naeem Latif. And they said, we want Troutman. We want Troutman. There's no better way to start, and we certainly do. By the way, I want to also indicate that the Alderman has just begun a radio program co-hosted by Mark Allen and myself called Troutman Talks. Promises made, promises kept. If you have questions or comments about that program, please call us at 773-420-3645. So now, oh, by the way, Punch 51, I got to get that in. You're at the things are about certain things. How do you know this candidate, and what would you like to say about it?
Well,
it's sort of this is your life,
Okay.
You talk about me.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes.
I'll start by saying I'm a
grooming you.
Absolutely, he was an extremely important mentor to me, and
grammar school with Dean Marigold's brother.
Oh, this is
on
too
the south side.
Close.
And also, Mike Hyman also has served as my mentor. I graduated from University of Maryland's law school, and then I ended up coming back to Chicago and clerking for Justice Campbell in the appellate court for a year. After that clerkship, I joined his former firm, and lo and behold, Mike was one of the partners who was in charge of me. So Mike actually taught me how to litigate. and how to be an attorney in the most professional manner. That relationship has grown now into a true friendship, even though I still consider him my mentor and someone who I can go to for difficult issues. I cannot think of a person who has a higher sense of integrity and more.
Hello and welcome once again. I'm Morgan Carter, World's Conversation Starter, and we're here at the Corley Boo Medical Center right at the John Awa. Welcome to the program. I should say to your program. All right. And we are your guests on the second floor here talking about a number of medical specialties. You've got, what, about 18 or 20 different kinds of specialties under one roof, or at least 3 floors. And we'll be talking to, is it Lisa Young? Is that right? Dr. Young in just a few minutes. But we're going to start out with Dr. Awa and talk about something that bothers a whole lot of people, and that is back pain. And I have experienced it myself. I remember for a few years actually sleeping on the floor because it felt better in terms of my back. Now, so all of that said, that's a good segue into Dr. Awa. What exactly causes back pain?
Morgan, it's a pleasure to be on the program with you today. And before I answer your question, I want to tell you.
Hello and welcome once again. I'm Morgan Carter, World's Conversation Starter, and it's a rare opportunity to interview my fellow media brothers. I have with me a real freedom fighter, in addition to being the publisher of the South Street Journal. And no, we're not related, but I guess in spirit, Brother Ron Carter's with us. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Morgan. My
pleasure.
pleasure.
All right.
Okay.
You know, we were teasing about you or laughing with you with your first experience or two here. You know, some of us are from big families, you know, and you got to eat fast and sleep fast and talk fast, you know. And you finally caught on with the rhythm, and you say, I want to talk now. So now it's just one-on-one, and there should be no problem. There's so much to ask you, and I'm sure that people want to know about probably one of the better World's Conversation Starter, and this is another edition of Omnibus Roundtable Television. We'd like to thank one of the best news talk programs on the air. Join us on Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. on Channel 19, and also we repeat again on Thursdays at 4:30. Got interesting show. Grab a pen, maybe call a friend, or is the other way around. Grab a friend. No. We're going to go around the table right now. Brief introduction to these wonderful guests. And I don't mean to be sexist. We've had 2 shows. It's an everyday problem for a lot of people. You had some statistics that I thought were very strong. Tell us about Baltimore. Maybe that bowl and soapbox But I was saying to many young women, we have an intern here, and if you think there's the slightest chance that you'd be intimate with a young man, I know you don't usually do this as a
Corpus, it says cyanide. What are you going to do with cyanide? That's very poison. Very poison. I know I'm going to poison my husband. Kill him. I'd lose my license. I'd go to jail. I tell you what I want you to do, madam. Get out of my store. Just leave my phone. Get out. She says, okay, but before I go, I want to show you this. Well, she showed the pharmacist a picture of her husband. I'm sorry, of the woman's husband with the pharmacist's wife. The pharmacist said, oh, I didn't know you had a prescription. Now, I said pharmacy. I'm not sure how dental services, ophthalmology, optometry, family medicine, dietitian services. Now, we need that.
Cussing, things like that. So that's a good one to start. That I start.
Well, my disclaimer, which I always use, just so people can understand my position, is.
Okay.
Well, we've had all kind of artistic people who've done all types of things across this country, and they've been stamped renowned artists.
Well, let me put a pause on that for a minute. Now, you have indicated that the rap that you have, the hip hop, shall we say, genre of your play is positive hip hop. So what does that mean to this audience? What does that mean in your play?
No profanity at all in my play.
I use the analogy of Sinbad. Sinbad said his acid test was that his mother and his father could come to the... Once again, I'm Morgan Carter, world's conversation starter, and this is Omnibus Roundtable Television. We've enjoyed your support over the last few years. We're trying to get bigger and better. We'd like you to call us on the number on the screen at 773, and that's 420-3645. Would you please recommend to us topics that you'd like to have covered? Perhaps you have a guest in mind. Maybe there's some trend or issue that either bothers you or thrills you. Maybe your church or community group would like to be on. We want you to welcome us out to your club, group, or organization to speak, as we want to connect with you. We are Omnibus Roundtable, appearing on Channel 19 Wednesday nights at 9:30 and repeating again at Thursday. And of course, we have another program called World News TV at various times during the week. We're going to talk to our special guest in just a moment. And remember, once again, that's some very interesting music in that intro. And I'm Morgan Carter, World's Conversation Starter. This is Chicagoland Community Calendar. We know you're going to learn something and be entertained and informed, so you want to grab a pen and call a friend, or is it grab a friend and call a pen? Something on that order. We're going to have a lot of fun as usual, but you will learn something. We hope you're bigger, better, and brighter for what you enjoy and take in. Our number's on the screen, but let me say it anyway, 773-752-5837, MORGAN 6402@yahoo.com. Lots to talk about, and if you want more program information, if you'd like to have your business, your organization on our show, if you'd like to give us input, if we make you mad or glad or sad this afternoon, we want your reaction. Please call us and talk slowly, please. Give us a good number, an area code, and perhaps an extension to get back to you, because we really enjoy the input, and thank you for these fine years of support. We have a special guest this evening, and he's going to make kind of a walk-on appearance. He's Huey Crockham, CEO and president of Shirts R Us. I've heard of Toys R Us and something else.